Good evening. I am Neena Chappell. We all know that society is aging. In fact, all of us in this room can expect to live to a ripe old age today. This is new historically. It is a first in history. In past societies, some people could expect to live as long as we live today, but the vast majority would not. In 2015, just over 15% of the Canadian population was age 65 and over, about 5.5 million people. In the United States, the percentage was just a bit lower, 14%, but it includes 45 million people. That's larger than every man, woman, and child in Canada. In China, less than 10% of individuals are age 65 or over, but it includes almost 130 million people. In other words, aging is a worldwide phenomenon. Benjamin Franklin said a long time ago, "All would live long, but one would not be old." What he was referring to was declines in physical health. And it is true that as we age, we are more likely to suffer from chronic conditions, arthritis, heart disease, and any number of other conditions. It's true that we're more likely to suffer from more than one chronic condition. We're likely to develop some functional disabilities, although we can have chronic conditions without necessarily it affecting our physical functioning. Our satisfaction with our health decreases, and that's related to the decline in our objective physical health. We're more likely to fall and to receive injuries from those falls. Our society, unfortunately, is also characterized by ageism. We have a narrative of decline around old age. We discriminate against older workers. We have negative stereotypes about people with dementia. Portrayals of older adults in the media are largely non-existent or negative, although I notice that's changing as us baby boomers become elderly. But there is a paradox, and you find that paradox when you move from the physical realm of aging to the inner realm. Physical health declines, but well-being or quality of life, and here I'm talking about subjective quality of life, does not for the vast majority of us. Older adults, in fact, report similar or better subjective quality of life than younger adults. And there is a lot of research on this, a lot in the Western world, but also in other countries in the developing world as well. Here I'm referring to happiness, life satisfaction, overall well-being. This paradox is portrayed in this cartoon. So a young fellow is selling the fountain of youth. He says to an elderly couple, "You'll have the body of a 20-year-old, and they're smiling. You'll have the mind of a 20-year-old. They're not so happy. He turns around and says, "So how many bottles do you want?" And they walk away. That cartoon demonstrates this paradox of aging. What do we all want in life? And there's actually a lot of research in this area as well. We want happiness above everything else. Why do we want money in our capitalist society? At least for most of us, we want it because we believe it'll bring us happiness. That's why we want material goods. It's typically not because we want the material good for itself. So perhaps the Dalai Lama was correct when he said the purpose of our lives is to be happy. And in fact, despite the fact that Western governments believe that we have to continually increase the economic wealth in our countries. Much worldwide research shows that once we have sufficient wealth to be comfortable, and the social determinants of health are very important there, people don't then get happier when they get richer. This has been demonstrated particularly in Western countries, but also in developing countries. When you look at factors like satisfaction with jobs and income, it does not increase in old age. In fact, it decreases. But our satisfaction with relationships, with our social life and our leisure time, which tends to be flat in midlife, increases during old age until at least very old age. The vast majority of older adults show in national surveys through Statistics Canada to be satisfied and even very satisfied with their lives, to be happy and even very happy. Well, how can this be when our physical health, in fact, declines? We don't know. But what we do know is that our values in life change and our priorities change. Relationships are what become most important to us, not any relationship, but relationships with those close to us, our families and our close friends. And for many of us, we come to terms with our past lives, which we now cannot change. Whatever we did, whatever we didn't do, we come to a large degree to accept. This is not to say that growing old is easy. It is not to say that some of us will suffer real hardship and real declines in health. Dementia is real, but even amongst those over 80, the vast majority do not have dementia. It does mean for those who do suffer both physical and mental frailties, it is our duty, I believe, as a society to provide them with adequate care, and that means care with humanity. It is to say that old age is not only not all bad, but older adults have learned something that many younger adults have not yet learned, and that is happiness in this life. And we also know that if we keep our bodies active to the extent possible within whatever limitations of our declining health, keep our minds as active as we can, and very importantly, to engage in a meaningful life of what is meaningful to each of us individually, that all of these are critical to a good old age. I wish you all a good old age. Thank you very much.